ultimately what your voice is and what your range is and what your part is. So today we're going to find out. I'm going to tell you. That's right. All right. So you have these little sheets in front of you, and they have a little section of the keyboard, and then they also have all these little dots. So for starters, sheet music 101. I'm going to walk you through by the end of tonight. You are going to be able to basically read a thing of sheet music. If I have anybody sorry about it. So if you actually pull up the No More Night, the very first page, just figured I'd show you, and I want to define a few things. And you can write notes all over it if you want to. So for starters, just go ahead and flip it over to page 2, because page 1 is long story, doesn't matter. We'll get to that. But on page 2, you'll notice down at the bottom, you've got 2 sets of lines. They're separate than the words. That's confusing, so we'll start with these steps. I'm going to pass around Angels We Have Heard on High, which is a very familiar song. And this is basic music. So it's as basic as it gets. There's a top line, there's a bottom line, and there's words in between. So what sheet music means is when there are the lines and there are the little dots, that's the note. And so if you learn how to read sheet music, you can actually tell what your note is and what you're supposed to sing and how it works. That's why they call it reading sheet music, because it's a little bit like Braille. Once you know what the dots mean, you know what to do. At least that's the general idea. So, Angels We Have Heard on High, you already know the tune, so you're familiar with it. But look to the left. On the very left, the top has this little funny looking S. That's a treble clef. T-R-E-B-L-E, if you feel like writing it down. The treble clef is the higher notes starting from middle C. So that's what the girls sing. Treble is for girls. And then if you look at the bottom, underneath, treble, T-R-E-B-L-E. And most of the music words, I believe they're Italian. They mean stuff, but it doesn't matter. Treble means girls, whatever it really means. And if you look down at the bottom, there's that funny little ear looking piece. That is the bass clef, B-A-S-S, not bass, like fish, but bass as in low notes. So that's all the notes going down from middle C. That's where the guys live. Now, right next to that, you notice on your little Angels We Have Heard on High, there's a funny little B. That's for a flat. Ignore that for now. We'll get to that later. But right next to that are 2 numbers, 4/4. That is your timing. And the timing, what that means is how many beats per measure. So what's a measure? Well, if you look where it says Angels We Have, and then there's a little line, Heard on High, and then there's another line, and it's separating all the music into these boxes. Every little box is a measure, and it's spelled just like a measure, M-E-A-S, however you spell measure. Every measure gives you the same number of beats, and that's how you can break up the whole thing. And it basically is just to help you be able to know where you are in a song. So like when we're practicing, I can say go to measure 27, and we all know exactly where to go, and we know exactly what to do when we get there. That's all it's for, is just to help you pick time.
The other thing, sheet music gives you the numbers.
Yes, which is very nice. On choir music, it usually has them numbered so that you can go to measure 27. Whereas on a hymn, you don't really need that because, I mean, you can see it. So this measure is 4/4 time. Almost all the songs in the world are 4/4 time. And what that means is 4 beats per measure. Angels we have. That's 4. Heard on high. So if you went like dun, 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 like somebody playing the drums, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just about every song. There are some songs that are 3/4 timing, like No More Night. So that means 3 beats. So if you think of the difference is 4 beats per measure is your average song. So Angels We Have Heard on High. 3 beats per measure, think of, okay, 4 beats per measure, what you think of like a line dance. So it's like bump, 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 kick, bump, 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 kick, bump. And so you know every 4 beats you're supposed to do something different. 3 beats per measure is a waltz. Da-da, 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 and it's 3. So if you tried to do 3 counts on a line dance, it would be very confusing. So like, take me out to the fall. You can't do it. Your brain recognizes 4/4 timing and your brain recognizes 3/4 timing, even if you don't even know what that is. Because music is math. And I'm no good at math, but I get this. Your instincts recognizes however this works, it just does. And so when you start listening to songs from now on, I want you to try and count. So I'll sing a song. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Okay, so if you try counting 4, amazing grace, how sweet that it doesn't work. Try counting 3. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. And one of the things that makes it easy to recognize is the downbeat. So you're going to learn how to conduct a choir today too. On a 4/4 beat, you go count. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you'll be doing it down, left, right, up. So we're going to sing Angels We Have Heard on High, and I want you to direct. So you ready? We'll start lower so we can all hit notes. Okay, so angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing over the plains. Okay, so even if you're holding the note out, it's still for every single measure. So it's not about whether you're singing a note right in there. It's just that's what keeps your time. There's a little thing called a metronome. It's actually a little machine that goes tick, 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 tick. It does 4 counts, and so you can go boom, 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 and you keep your time that way. Okay, 3 is just down, left, and up. So 3 per measure. So, amazing grace. Amazing grace. And what you'll notice is that downbeat, the very first beat in the measure, is usually emphasized. We do it without thinking about it, but it's like your brain recognizes the math and it gets the rhythm of it, unless you're like really not a rhythm person, but you can learn. So, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch. And it's interesting. Once you start to recognize it, next time they sing a song, you'll be like, oh, I get it. So, angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plain. So, just is what it is. Pretty cool. All right. So that's the difference between 4/4 timing and 3/4 timing. We'll be singing songs in both. There are other things like 6/8 timing, and it gets really complicated, but that's very rare. And it's usually like high level music, Tchaikovsky and stuff. We're not going there. We're just going to stick to. I'm not going there. Okay. I like to listen to it. Not to mention Tchaikovsky doesn't have words that I know of. So, and if they are, they're questions. So we really are going. Okay. So take a look at this little guy. So you got measures, you've got timing, you've got your treble clef, your bass clef. But where do you belong? All right, so if you look at the notes, you've got high notes, low notes. What does that all mean? Here's a keyboard over there. You do like this. Think of that as sheet music, just as if you push the keyboard sideways. And the lower notes are at the lower bottom of the keyboard. The higher notes are at the higher part of the keyboard. It's the same way with all these little lines right here. The higher you go, the higher you sing. The lower you go, the lower you sing. And what does it mean? Well, if you mushed these lines together and there was no break in between, middle C would be your line in the middle. But all the words have to go in there. So there's a break in between, which is why middle C actually doesn't have a spot in the line. So if you drew a line smack in the middle, that's a terrible line. If you drew a line in the middle and put a little dot on it, right there, right on the middle, that would be middle C. And everything on the treble clef goes up from middle C, everything on the bass clef goes down from middle C. But because the words are in there, it splits it up. So if you look back at this, take a look in the middle, you'll see a C, and you'll see another C. That is the same thing. Middle C is the middle period. Whether it's on the treble clef or on the bass clef, it's the middle. It's just split up because of the words. That's all. But that's why it has this funny little line in the middle of it, because there should be a middle line that has C on it. But since there is no middle line, the little C gets so special little line. He just carries it around with him. He's special. So when you go up from middle C, every note is a letter. And they're all the white keys. White keys have letters. The black keys are for sharps and flats, which we'll get to later. We're ignoring the black keys, not because we're racist, just because they're too complicated for us right now. Right now, we're doing white keys, which is every letter. Now, you'll notice you're like, wait a minute, some of these letters are the same. So how am I supposed to know anything? Okay, well, that's where we begin. So, you take your attention over here. This is middle C. Everybody get that for me. I should do a C. C. Okay, that's the most basic note. That's where we start all the time. When you go up from C, it gets higher. When you go down from C, it gets lower. But that's pretty much where everybody starts. There are, but this is a C. This is a C as well. So is this. So is this. What is that? You notice those actually all sound the same, just higher or lower. So if I sing C, somebody else sings C. Thank you. It's all the same, and that's what's called an octave. Octave, everything on the keyboard, again, music is math, everything on the keyboard is broken up into 8. Why 8? I don't know. But it starts with A, which makes the whole C thing confusing. But A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So fortunately, it's not all 26 letters. It's just 8 of them. That simplifies things. But an A is the same all the way from the bottom of the keyboard to the top. It's just whether it's higher or lower. A, you know, that whole thing. So usually we start on C. I don't really know why, but A to G, and then it starts over again. An octave, you know, octogenarian, octopus, 8. So that helps you remember 8. There are 8 letters. The letters just help you to know which ones they are. And if you look again at your paper, we've got our middle C, and then it goes up the alphabet. C, D, E, F, G, and then again we start over again. A, B, C, D, E, F, and it keeps going and going. And also it goes down. So we're going to find out what your happy notes are. That's what your pencil is for. I'm going to hit notes. We are going to sing notes. And if that note is a happy note for you, your mouth is happy making it, I want you to mark it, like color it in with your pencil. So C for everybody should be colored in because C should be okay. Unless you're a very strange vocal cords. So C, that's the one smack in the middle with the little own line by itself. We're going to start by going down.
I think some of us guys, when we did the middle C, we were doing an octave lower C.
Huh?
And so we might circle it in as happy, but we're actually down there about here.
Ah, that's a good point. Okay, so no skipping octaves. So we'll start with middle C, and actually for guys who tend to be bass, middle C actually isn't a happy place. You could probably hit it, but it's not like, yeah, I love this note. So that brings us back to something I was going to say later, but I'll say it now because it's useful. You have a section of notes, probably about 4 or 5, that are like, these are my notes. This is what my throat enjoys doing. But that's a very short, limited amount of space. Then you have maybe more, maybe even octave, maybe even 2 octaves once you practice voice, where you can sing. So it's not the same as your 4 or 5, like, yeah. So I want you to notice the difference. You're going to notice when you go C, D, E, F, G, A. A is when I switch. It's something about, they call it your chest voice and your head voice. Now, you don't sing out of your head literally, but what happens if you want to touch it, if you want to figure it out, your larynx, which is right here, when you're singing normal, your happy place, it's like down here, diaphragm, chest, your vocal cords are where they normally are. And then at some point, they got to go up to make it happen. Not like, don't do that, that's bad. But when it shifts up, it's like you switch to your head voice. And then they talk about sing from your forehead if you want to hit those notes. If you try to hit them from here, you're going to be straining and you're going to look like your average pop star today that is going to lose their voice in about 2 more notes if they keep yelling like that. So you're going to have about 4 or 5 notes that are totally colored in, like, yeah. But then you're going to have other notes like, I can hit that. So maybe you can circle them or put a little mark in them. That's still your range. And then if it's like, if you can't do it without straining or without like, or adding breath to it, you know, that kind of thing, don't want those. It'd be better if you just didn't hit those. So we're going to start. Let's see. So I'm going to you. Then we're going to go down 1 to B. B. Down 1 to A. I got that note. That's a great note. They're muscles, which is why you warm up your voice before you sing, just like you should warm up your legs before you go running a mile. If you don't, you strain it, and that's why my throat hurts right now. Let me warmed up. Just so you know, the more you practice, the more you sing, the more your range will actually expand because your vocal cords will get exercise and they will start being able to do more things. It's really actually quite cool. So my range has shrunk about 3 or 4 notes since I was in college and I was doing this, you know, every week. Or when you get older, Julie Andrews had a 4-octave range, which is like super humid. But then when she turned 17, she lost like an octave just because she aged. So, you know, like boys who sing in boys choirs can have like phenomenal ranges, and as they age, of course, it gets, then they start sounding like toads. Okay, so, yes.
So are we supposed to have our spaces circled and whatnot?
I'm about to tell you what that means.
I mean, are we supposed to have that?
Yes.
You might want to check and see if the people have that.
Did you mark your notes? I didn't mark mine when I was
Or
busy.
people need you to do it.
Okay, did you do it again, or did you mark your notes? They did. They all followed instructions. Okay, so on the guy's side, we have the tenor part, the baritone part, and the bass part. We are not worrying about baritone because baritone and bass are very, very similar. So we're going to go bass, tenor. Basically, in any given hymnal, you have 2 notes on the bottom. One's lower, one's not so low. One is for the bass, one is for the tenor. So to determine if you are a bass or a tenor, a bass tends to be from that octave down C up through G. That is more his comfortable space, or even up to A. The tenor is more up in the A to C, like middle C. So if you're more comfortable closer to the middle C, you are probably a tenor. If you are more comfortable down the next C down, you are a bass. Does that make sense? So I would like to know what you are, guys.
Okay, question.
Yeah.
I was told that I could sing either part. What does that mean?
Your circle seems to be in the middle between basically.
Okay. That's not a bad thing.
The reason I say this is because Johnny said, you can hit that high note.
Yes. So.
No, I can't.
So that's why I wanted to talk about where are the 4 or 5 happy notes for you. Because often we can have a range, like I've got a 2-octave range, but it's like, where's your happy place? Where you're, whatever. So where's your happy place?
You know J.D. Sumner? Say what Elvis Presley. I can do all that. Good practice.
It's more on the bass.
Now, I do know where, but those are not happy notes.
She got a good range. Tenor. And if you could do anything above middle C, I would want you to put you in a tenor because we need a tenor. So basically, if you're cool with it, you're a tenor.
With practice, I probably could.
Brian's a bass. And if you're in the middle, guess you get to decide.
Now, Danny Smith is intending bass.
Okay. So Dan, you can watch this and figure out what you are, and we'll see. Yeah, because if we have 4 boys, it'd be nice to have 2 and 2. So let's start you on, well, you're sitting next to Brian. So we can start you on base today and then see what happens next week.
Somebody left it, I can't remember what it said.
Then we'll put him down for tenor, and if that changes, we'll just change. So you're a fish. Okay. Okay, girls. For the girls, we have alto, we have mezzo soprano, and we have soprano. Mezzo means middle, so it just means a second soprano or a middle, and that's for the people who can't hit the whopper notes way at the end. Usually, mezzo sopranos only have like 2 different notes in the entire thing they sing with the soprano, but it's just a delineation. So, altos are more comfortable in the D to the A range. That's more their happy place. Because a lot of alto goes in between like C and F. You kind of live there. Sometimes even going below middle C. So if you have any range below middle C, which once it gets past that next C, if it gets past that, you're like, nope, you're an alto. So who fits the alto? Okay. Shelly's an alto. That's good because we need that. Soprano, mezzo soprano is more the F to B flat. And then soprano is more the G to C, and then of course it goes up. So more like D to G. So if you can do stuff beyond the next C, then you should probably go for soprano. Thanks. Catch my little froggy sound. Okay. So does that mean everybody else is soprano? You went out there? All right. All right. Suzanne is a mezzo, which is good. And Hope's a soprano. I'm a mezzo, but I'm not singing. So I'm really down. I'm the mezzo. Change. Okay, so that's great. That's good because we have a nice segment of each part. That's fantastic. Because one thing that really doesn't work well is if you have like 17 altos and 2 sopranos. I don't know if you've ever been to church like that, but I have. So you hear a lot of middle notes. Especially the one that sings loudest is flat a little bit. God bless her. You know who bless her heart kind of is? My voice tends to go flat or sharp, just so you know, that's just natural. Nobody's perfect. And if you're busy, they'll auto-tune you. So just so you know, all the people who sound so perfect on the internet, most of them, that happens through a machine. It's There's a dude who assesses the stuff, and you can actually change the little notes and make it. It's called auto-tune, and that's why pretty much all the songs now sound like they got made out of cardboard. Yeah, they sound synthetic. It's not real. Okay. So, any questions so far? All right. Angels we have heard on high. We're going to start here because it's a song everybody's familiar with. Now that you know your parts, now you know everything, right? You can read this music. So, one nice thing about music is even if you can't like read it like exactly, like you look at this note, you're like, oh, that's you know, you can see when it goes up and when it goes down. So if you're like a bass, dun 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 dun, you can tell it's like, oh, that's a big old jump, or it just goes down a little bit. So you can at least start telling when it goes up and down, and that just makes it easier to keep track. What ends up happening to sing really well in a choir? What ends up happening is all the individual parts, you learn your song. And so it's your part, and you learn that version of the song. And it doesn't sound right by yourself. My uncle used to teach, he was part of a college choir, and they were singing the Messiah, and he was standing around, he was in the car with us, and he was singing the Hallelujah chorus in bass. It's so annoying. We were like, oh. A good choir works because you know exactly what your song is And when your song matches with somebody else's song and somebody else's song, then it's make beautiful music together. That's what that actually means. So again, think about the line dancing. That's like octaves. C, 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 6. Everybody's doing the same exact thing. 1, 2, 3, go. And we all turn around at the same time. So it looks good, but it's all the same, right? Harmonizing is more like a waltz. So one person's going this way and one person's going this way, and then they're twirling around, but they're not bonking into each other and everybody doing their own thing or trying to find what sounds really good. So if you ever tried to waltz with anybody when you don't know how to waltz and you're just like wandering around, that's not a good idea. So that's why we practice, so that everybody knows their part, so it looks real pretty when we waltz instead. That's what harmonizing is all about. All right, so it may not sound good by itself, but when we put it together, it sounds amazing.
They,
So remember your angels we have heard on high. We're about to be amazing.
next one.
So all of us know the tune, of course. And that's the top note. What I just played is the top note. So it's A, C, B, A. Not that it matters. But you can see, look at the top note and how it goes down, and it goes down a little bit, and up a little bit, and then it hops. All right, so if you look at it just we have heard on high, you've got 1, 1, 1, 1, and then the next one has this funky little dot next to it, and then it goes down to this little, tiny little one with a flag. All that means is it's a 1, plus a tiny little bit more so that then you can hit that one. So like, angels we have heard fly. So what that did was it just stretched it out a little bit more. And then you have a half note. So it's empty ones with a flag, and you hold it out for 2. So that makes sense because in your tiny little measure where it's heard on high, still got to be 4 beats no matter what. So you have heard is 1, on is 1, and high is 2. Heard on high. So you're holding it out.
So
Where
it
do you
not adds a half beat and the flag reduces it by
It's
a half
tiny,
beat.
yeah. So the more flags, bells, whistles colored in, the faster you go. The more it's just there. It's just more like a smoke. Just there. Now, so if you look down at the chorus, look at the very top note, the gore. It's a half note. So it's 2, and then it's got all these funny little da 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 da. Those are all the flags. It's just they connected all the flags together, so it's not too confusing. So it's 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 1, 2, 1 and 2 and. So now that you know that, you can look at that. And you're like, I know what to do right here. Fortunately, you already know the song. That helps. But then you notice on the bottom, it pulled it out too. That's the alto part, and that's where it's the or whatever you're supposed to be singing, and it's the 1, 2 and 3, 4, 1, 2 and 3, 4. So that way, and then you guys, it's a little bit easier. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So your first one, both of you are holding it out, and then the 3, 4, you're actually doing other stuff. But then it goes to In Excelsis Dei and In Excelsis. All of those are just quarter notes. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So then everybody's like boom, 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 boom together, and then it splits off again. Which again, like a dance, sometimes you're doing things together, and sometimes you're splitting up, and it makes it really beautiful. Make sense? Cool. All right. It's a little bit after 7, so we're actually going to go into the song we're here for. I just want to walk through the actual sheet music first. How many of you listened to it on the video? Okay. I'm in trouble with this. Who's to be the teacher, Pat? All right. So if you open your folder, this is your copy of the music. For those of you who care, on the left side it has 2 little B's. That means it's in the key of E flat, which means there are 2 flats. Absolutely doesn't matter unless you're playing the piano, so don't worry about that. But what happens is, yeah, we'll just skip that. So you'll notice the whole top of it is just piano music. We're not singing yet. So that's the intro for somebody playing, so it doesn't matter what they're doing. And then you notice at the bottom it says ladies, so that's helpful. That's not even in Italian. So we understand what it says. And then it says
What is MP mean?
MP. So there's going to be notes throughout this. Yes, that's correct. The intention of sheet music is to help you know exactly what you need to do. And if it's a really good set of sheet music, you can hand it out to a good choir and boom, they're there. I was in a choir once like that and I was just like, oh, I wasn't that good. So I just like tried to keep up and stood there in awe. It was just amazing. But all this stuff helps you to know when to get louder, when to get softer, when to breathe, all that kind of stuff. So MP, M is for mezzo, which is medium, and P is soft. Whatever the Italian word is, don't ask me. If it's an F, that's forte. F-O-R-T-E, that's loud. So if you see a double P, that's extra soft. You'll never see a triple P, I don't think, because that's pretty much like don't make any noise. If you see a double F, that's like extra loud. Every once in a while, at the very end of a song, you'll see a triple F, and it's like scream your head off. Whatever. So at the very first one is a eighth note. Da 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 da. And actually, all three of these are actually the same. It's just the first flag doesn't connect with the other flags because it belongs in a different beat. So what are these other little symbols for? So right before it says the timeless, there's this funny little squiggly, and then there's this funny little other squiggly. What are they? Both of those are called rests. Rests, plural. The first one, what should we call that? Somebody,
It's a quarter note rest.
well, okay, be official. The squiggly, the quarter note squiggly means breathe. That's literally what it means. Or, like Annie's soldier. That's when you just calm down and don't make any noise. But the reason it's there, that's when you breathe. Because you really don't want to be like, or you don't want people all breathing when they're not supposed to be breathing. And then it all sounds real choppy. The little tiny one, that is also a rest. But because it only counts for half of the beat, it has to be smaller. If it had a full one, then you wouldn't be able to have the. There'd be no room for it. So it's one, the timeless, because there's only 3 beats per measure, remember? So there's only 3 total. Da 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 da, and that makes 3. What? The quarter rest is one beat. Yes, that's correct. Yes. You're hanging out together. It's going to be really hilarious for everyone watching this video. Okay, and then it goes to theme. That is a half note, so it gets 2 beats. Themed, earth and heaven will pass away. Breathe, it's not a dream. So some of these are quick breaths, but it's enough to get enough to be able to keep going. And by the way, you always want to breathe with your diaphragm because that will help you project better. If you breathe from your throat or your chest, you're going to wear out. So everybody take a deep breath. If you catch your shoulders going up, that's bad. Sorry. Put your hand here. Sorry guys, but go pregnant and then not pregnant. Pregnant and not pregnant. So deep breath in, let out. In. It helps if you loud. I don't know why. So like when you're at home today, like lay down and put a big book on there and try and breathe. It's actually a very good relaxation technique, helps with anxiety and all that stuff. It's very good. But that's your diaphragm. So you got your lungs up here, and if you're pulling in your lungs, you don't have much room. So you only get a little bit, and that's where you run out, and then you have to start like straining. And then by the halfway through the song, you've got nothing left, and then you're just like wheezing. Whereas if your diaphragm is this muscle that pulls down, when it pulls down for you to breathe out like this, it gives your lungs more room. And it actually pulls air into your lungs instead of being like. So you notice like if somebody hyperventilates, it's because they're like, it's only given a little bit of room. And that's why they tell you breathe slowly or breathe in a paper bag or focus and count. Anybody who's been pregnant, that whole hoo and all that stuff. So you want to breathe from your diaphragm because it will help you have more lung capacity and then more air to push your notes out. Your awesome, amazing notes that are going to be on key. Okay. So I want you to read this with me. Now that you know about timing, we are going to read it according to the time that's written here. So we start with spaces and spaces and spaces. And then it's, so 1, 2, 3, one space. The timeless theme, earth and heaven will pass away. Breathe, it's not a dream. God will make all things new that day. To breathe on is the curse from which I stumbled and fell to breathe. Evil is banished to eternal hell. Now look at that. Look what just showed up. Okay, so this is because there's no whole note for 3. There's a 2 and there's a 4. That's what the little dots are for. It's just because they're like, you're so annoying, you know, we're just going to put it out there and make it work. But you notice how this little wonky thing connects the notes? What that means is you keep holding it out. Stick with it, don't break. So you're going to really want to have a lot of breath support in that one you get. And on top, you've got a crocodile mouth, which is very similar to what it is in math. It means you start here and you get louder. So, eternal help. And I will be showing you, the nice thing is, this is to help us practice. But when we actually sing, I don't want you looking at this. We're going to be that good. You're going to be looking at me. And I'll be giving you, you know, like louder or softer. So let's practice that actually. So, hell's not a good word to say. This is talk about
For the videos.
night. Night. So give me we'll shoot for around middle C. So na. See, you can do that, and if the whole part does it, it actually sounds really, really cool. So that's what that's for. So eternal health. Boom. No more night. It's gonna sound very good. So if you notice on measure 26, now you know where that is. Ignore that funky little whatever that is. It's got mezzo forte to forte. So it means middle loud to loud. We're going for loud, so you can ignore the M. So to me, this is when it like hits. So evil is banished to eternal hell, and you get bigger, and then there's this one note breath, no. It's like, bam. You know, that's the point. No more night to rest. No more pain to rest. No more tears. Never crying again. And by then you're going to need a breath because look, after no more tears, there's no little breath there. So that's the reason this is here is to notice because your brain is going to say to take a breath because you did for the first 2 times, but you don't. And that's my job. So it's going to be, sometimes it's going to be like this, but usually it's, you know, no more night to. That's pretty easy to understand. Cease, desist. So that means don't make no more noise. So no more night to cut. No more pain. Cut. No more. And I'm doing this. That means don't breathe. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Never crying again. And pray. We'll have to practice that. So everybody's like, whatever. Pray for us. We didn't practice much. That sort of thing. All right. Moving on to page 4. Measure 34. So this time when we're reading, I want you to actually hold the note out if you're supposed to. It's going to sound really awful, but it's just good for time. So ready? So 1, 2, 3. Praises to the big high and free. Whoa, there's no squigglies. That little square, rectangle, that's a rest too. That's like, yeah, just lay down and go sleep. So I guess it's the boring one. So it's going to give us 2 whole measures where you get to catch your breath. And then we start over again on mezzo forte, which is, you know, just pretty much normal. Just normal. I don't know why we have to get so fancy about it. It should just say normal. Whew. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 1.5. See all around, now the nations bow down to sing the only sound is the blessed Christ, our King to rest. Turn the page, slow. Jesus' name. Now what just happened? We forgot about you guys. I don't know if you noticed, but there's no notes in the bottom. It's all resting, so you guys just get to take a break. And you don't come in until I know. So we'll start with slowly again. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Slowly the veins from the foot are ready to rest. So there's no need to drag. Now, again. The reason this is not a 20-page sheet music is because they do something called a DS al coda. Whatever that means in Italian. It just means go someplace else. So, like here, where you sing the verse and the chorus, and then you go back to the verse. That's what we're doing. That's all. So it says, fortunately, it says 2 measure 26. That's why you're going to need the 3-ring binder because it's basically going back to no more night. It's going back to the chorus. But the second time through, when it gets to that spot, so go back to page 6. Oh, wait, no, sorry. Okay, so you go back to 26, no more night, no more pain, no more tears, crying again. And then it gets to praises to the great I am on page 4. We will live in the light of the risen. And it says second time to coda, measure 62. So that's where we skip the second verse. And it goes to page 7, measure 62. Then we go to a break. So the first time we just go back to the second verse. It's confusing, but we're going to memorize it anyway. So this is just to keep fewer pages. So the second time, so now we're on measure 62. And that's when we go into the fun little part, like rest, see over there. There's mention prepared to me. Turn page to 8. Eternally. And then it's going with, now, on the left, you see these funny little squares with lines. It's just a key change. So as far as a piano player is concerned, now you have no flats, no sharps. It's the key of C instead of the key of B flat, not E flat, which I said earlier. So all you need to know is that means we're going higher. So eternally. And so instead of no, it's like no. But the music will transition first. And so you will naturally do that. I'm just going to play it for you so you know what I'm talking about. Because like, how am I supposed to change keys? I don't know what we're doing here. So we are on page 8, measure 33. So, eternal. I'm going to play what it's going to sort of be like. So instead of not a big change, but it's big if we hit the wrong note. So now we're in a higher key, not much higher. It just means when you go up, it just adds some oomph to it. I always like it when songs go do a key change. It just makes it a little more majestic. So just not too bad. And then at the very end, so we're going to start at 74, and we're going to talk through this one because now it's the end, and so things change. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. No more night free. No more day free. No more tears that are crying, but set free. And praises to the great I am. We will live in the light of the risen. And 2, 3, 1, free. Then this is a little bit different than the one we listened to. We will live in the light of the risen. 1, 2, the risen. Yeah. Okay, we're ready, right? Okay, so we're gonna stop there.